with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
We will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was,
It doesn't
Excuse
matter.
me.
We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well,
I would like to take a break at this moment.
yeah,
and we'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
Go off the record. Go off the record.
Well, that was that very dramatic moment as Hillary Clinton stepped away. She had every good reason not to participate in any more of this because, of course, it seems ridiculous that they would have allowed, in that case, we didn't know it was Boebert, but it was Boebert who took a picture of the secretary and published it with a local right-wing Benny Johnson YouTuber guy. That was not kosher, but, you know, Hillary Clinton still kept going, which is a remarkable testament to her determination to continue with what she said was a very important process for her. She believes quite uniquely, and I think she's very authentic when she talks about how vital this evidence is, and that's why she decided to give testimony. Now, I will say, both Hillary and Bill suffer from something that could be amnesia. It could be that they just don't remember. But Jeffrey Epstein is very much a part of the White House in the early years of the White House. He's surrounding, as many of you know, he visited the White House 17 times. That whole period of time seems very unlikely that Hillary and Bill did not spend any time with Jeffrey Epstein at all. Even if it was just saying hello as he was wandering through the White House one of those 17 times, I find that very hard to believe. Now, maybe there's some good reason for them to want to misremember or not remember that period of time, and I don't know what that might be. But my research is troubling in this regard, in that it seems to me that Jeffrey Epstein was operating an intelligence operation on the Clintons, and them not remembering this period of time is not helping anybody understand what that intelligence operation is. So maybe there were some bad things that went on. Maybe, you know, who knows? But misremembering or not declaring that they were there and knew some things, or at least they knew Jeffrey Epstein, even just saying that they knew Jeffrey Epstein is important, because if people think that Jeffrey Epstein maybe had an operation, for example, to scuttle the Israeli-Palestinian talks that Bill Clinton was involved in, then it is important whether Bill Clinton knew Jeffrey Epstein or not at that time. It doesn't matter whether he did anything bad with any underage girls. Of course, it still matters. But I'm just saying, in terms of that espionage operation, it becomes important for the record and important for America's national security to know if Jeffrey Epstein had any access to whom at the White House, and how close were they to the president, and what influence did he have on the upcoming peace process, which involved Rabin, it involved Arafat at the time, and also later Ehud Barak. I'm going to be publishing a piece on narrative.org probably tomorrow if I can finish it in time, which really goes through that entire process of how close Jeffrey Epstein was to the entire Middle East peace process. And it might all seem like ancient history to everybody right now, except when you think about the fact that even in the White House right now, we have a president who is very heavily influenced by Bibi Netanyahu in Israel. Perhaps this misadventure or the war in Iran is also being ordered or coordinated by the Israelis. Well, if you have both these presidents potentially compromised by people like Jeffrey Epstein, it makes you wonder why they're so willing to follow Netanyahu's lead. Netanyahu, of course, famously scuttled the Middle East peace talks when Clinton was first made president. And then, of course, now we have him invading Iran on behalf of Israel, with America participating. So all these are very not inconsequential questions that we're asking, and it's got nothing to do with us trying to find out or attack Hillary Clinton or join in on any of the Pizzagate things. It's just a genuine desire to figure out what Epstein's reach was into the White House at that period of time. I'll keep explaining that over the rest of this analysis as we provide you tonight. Let's take a listen now to this other part of Nancy Mace's conversation. I think we heard part one, and if I'm not mistaken, this is part two. Let me see if this plays properly, and then we'll play it out for you here as well.
5 minutes left in it. I believe that the witness or her counsel would like to make a quick statement.
Thank you so much. We've just used the break because we learned during the process of these hearings that the committee was violating its own rules in members tweeting and sharing pictures of what is going on inside this closed hearing, a hearing that we have asked repeatedly to be open to the public. Chairman Comer was gracious enough to engage with me on this matter. We asked specifically to invite the press in, since the committee had already made decisions on its own unilaterally to release pictures and other things that are going on in this room. He indicated that he wanted to speak to that himself directly. I'd like to just say for the record, we find it unacceptable, we find it unprofessional, and we find it unfair. We are looking forward to this being conducted under the rules and being conducted consistent with expectations of how members of Congress, I know, take this matter so seriously and do it in that vein. We would also like to just indicate as a practical reality that we are here in good faith. We are counting on the good faith of all the members.
Thank you. Chairman Comer.
Yeah, I'd like to state for the record, I've advised my members that no photos or videos during the deposition can be released. I understand the posted photo was taken before the deposition started. We will, that will not happen again, and we will look forward to continuing with the deposition.
I'd like to make just a clarification there, Mr. Chairman. It was taken in this room after the witness sat down. It is not a basis that because she had not started speaking that it would be appropriate for there to have been a release of anything that was occurring in this room.
And we have made clear that's not allowed, and I will also say we were disappointed that the Secretary's opening statement was leaked to the press before she even gave her opening statement.
So the Secretary's statement was not leaked to the press. It was provided, as with other witnesses, including Mr. Wexner, who provided his before giving. Hers was given simultaneous. And so what we don't want is the Secretary to be treated any differently than other witnesses. That seems to be a consistent pattern, and we would love that pattern not to continue.
We've gone to great lengths to make all the accommodations that you all have requested. So we will, again, the members have been advised that is unacceptable. So
Thank you.
we look forward to continuing the deposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you addressing it.
Ranking Member Garcia.
Thank you. No, I just want to add, it's completely unacceptable.
Up close and personal for a number of years now, since I ran against him.
Sorry, I cut that a little short because it is important just to explain what happened. You had Boebert taking this photo, then you had this back and forth. At the end of the day, Hillary stayed for the conversation. She did not give up on the deposition, stayed for many hours, and then it got really good. So we'll leave the back and forth about the photograph aside now and show you this conversation or this exchange, which involved what Hillary Clinton deems Donald Trump may know about Jeffrey Epstein, and he's not telling. Listen to this very carefully. It's very telling.
Up close and personal for a number of years now since I ran against him. He has a tell. He has a behavioral tell. Whenever he is worried about being found out himself, he accuses somebody else of doing what he actually has done. And it's just a pattern with him. So it's no surprise to me that all of a sudden, what he promised in his campaign to reveal, everything about the files, and then when his people began looking in the files and realized how potentially incriminating they were of him, all of a sudden, that was no longer the focus. It was blaming Democrats, talking about a hoax, saying move on, there's nothing to see here. That is a typical pattern of President Trump's behavior, which speaks louder than all the words that he speaks and all of the Truth Social posts that he makes. He clearly knows what he did. He knows what others did, because remember, one of the emails that has come out recently is he called the police chief of Palm Beach at the time Epstein was arrested, according to reporting, to say, I'm so glad you got him. I'm so glad you're stopping him. Well, how would he know that? How would he know that?
How would he know that? Indeed, that's a very important question. And obviously, at 78, I got to say, Hillary Clinton is very switched on, has read every little bit of detail related here, has presented her arguments incredibly well, and comes across as authentic. And I don't believe she is lying in any of this. I really don't. Now, let's listen to another Mace moment. This is after Nancy Mace returned in the afternoon and things got even more electric. Let's take a listen to this next exchange.
Up close and personal
That's
for a
not
number
it.
of years
Let me try this again.
against him.
No, I don't know why that keeps happening. So let me try one more here and see if it works any better.
A tell.
No, we're still seeing the same one. Not sure why that's all happening. It's all mystery to me sometimes how all of this works. Let's look at what Hillary Clinton said about her flights on Epstein's plane, or at least Bill Clinton's flights on Epstein's plane.
Secretary Clinton, how do you feel about your husband being named in the Epstein files?
I think it's, something that is unfortunate, and I'm sure that he will tell you that he wished he had not flown on Epstein's plane. So that's, it's unfortunate.
That is probably the only admission she made the whole way through, that there was something unfortunate that happened, and she said that her husband would have probably regretted taking those flights. I'm sure he does. A lot of people questioned why I decided to run this today. I got a lot of criticism in the chat for focusing on the Clintons. Again, we're not focused on the Clintons. We're focused on uncovering the truth about Jeffrey Epstein and many other things that are happening in the Trump administration right now and geopolitically. And the reason we're playing this is exactly the reason that Hillary Clinton called for it to be public. Everyone should be seeing every single deposition in an open hearing. Everyone should be aware of everything. We shouldn't have it filtered through the news. If you were watching today, you would have picked up a lot of detail that did not occur or did not get reported by reporters who just shared links throughout the process. So, if there are any doubts about why we're doing this for complete openness and transparency. Everyone should be seeing exactly what Hillary and Bill said under oath, as they should be seeing exactly what Donald Trump, when he testifies, or Howard Lutnick, or everybody else who should be called in front of this committee. There is no doubt something very big, organized, and potentially criminal, even definitely criminal, happened involving a lot of these famous people, a lot of these well-known people. And it's very important that the public knows what they are so it doesn't happen again. Here's, times it got weird in today's deposition. Listen to this clip. It's really strange.
That he was also in active communication with Bush's CIA director. They also had stated that he had active ties to Russia, Israel, and Iran. Given your status, not just as the First Lady, but also in your secretary position, have you ever been targeted by any of these countries as a means of a foreign intelligence gathering operation? Are you aware of potential vulnerabilities in that?
Yeah, I was targeted by Russia in the 2016 campaign. I mean, I think that's pretty well known.
What about Israel or Iran?
I don't know about either Israel or Iran.
Okay, do you believe that Epstein was running potentially a honeypot operation with intelligence gathering operations to collect information on high-profile individuals, both Democrat and Republican, in the United States, in an effort to sway our foreign policies? Is it possible?
I have no direct knowledge, but I think it's one of the areas your committee should investigate.
Do you think it's possible?
It's certainly possible. It's a tried and true technique of certain intelligence agencies.
Do you believe that he was using honeypots in an effort to...
I can't speculate. I don't know.
Okay, and on the topic of transparency, Secretary, were you ever denied access, or did you ever inquire on the topic of UAP or Gilgamesh in your official or personal capacity, and why?
I was never denied access because I never asked for access.
Okay. In the efforts of having a transparent government and restoring faith within our country, do you believe that the American people deserve access to those topics?
I do. Subject to any national security implications, I think the information should be made available. I think that's been ordered, or at least I read that it had been ordered.
And lastly, before I yield my time, Chairman Comer, do you believe that you were personally a target of an intelligence gathering operation specifically pertaining to Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein?
I have no reason to believe that. I don't have any information.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I yield my time. Thank you.
Now, I believe her when she says that. I believe that she's saying she doesn't have any information regarding an intelligence operation. And that is troubling, because I can provide some information to her about what appears to be an intelligence operation around her. And if she really looks beyond the reporting that is currently happening, you'll realize that there's a lot of people involved in Israeli Middle East politics and and involved in the peace process itself. I'm thinking of the Norwegian former prime minister who suffered a supposed suicide attempt last week. There are just many connection points to the Israeli Middle East peace process that would have happened under her presidency. She acknowledges that Russia, of course, attacked her, and we could also point her to attacked her during the election campaign, I should say, in making sure she does not win against Donald Trump. I mean, there are extraordinary ties between Jeffrey Epstein and people connected to the Russian FSB. I'm thinking of Sergei Belyakov in particular, who works at the economic ministry there in Russia, who worked until recently there. There was also a lot of contact between Jeffrey Epstein and Cherkov, the former UN ambassador for Russia. Now, these are known spy handlers, similar to Donald Trump. They all have connections to Donald Trump as well. It seems to me that the same people who attacked the presidency in 2016, when she ran for president against Donald Trump, were also perhaps doing the same kind of thing to her husband's presidency when he was in power in the 1990s. And that is why I think the simple answer of saying she does not know about intelligence operations requires more scrutiny by her and her team. And maybe they need to go back and look at their files and really understand this is not a witch hunt around whether someone slept with someone who was 17 or 18, or whether we care tremendously about that. What we really are trying to discover here is the national security implications of that event. Because if there was a honeypot operation, and no one knows if anyone slept with anybody related to the Clintons, we just have no detail around that. There was a back rub, there was a couple of moments, but we don't know, except for Virginia Giuffre said that Hillary and Bill were there, or at least Bill was there at one point. There's other evidence to suggest Bill Clinton was there. But it seems to me that it's very likely that the same people who were operating against her in 2016, which involved also Jeffrey Epstein behind the scenes, even though she may not be aware of it, involved Peter Thiel behind the scenes, involved Sergei Belyakov, as I mentioned, and Cherkov. Well, those same people would also have been involved in whatever was happening in the 1990s. And then, of course, Ken Starr's name comes up a lot in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, because Jeffrey Epstein was basically got off the hook in 2008, 2009 with that sweetheart plea bargain by Ken Starr. Now, Ken Starr is not just some accidental person in the Clinton presidency. Ken Starr was the one who was the special counsel investigating the Monica Lewinsky affair. The connections are apparent. They're everywhere. And those kinds of patterns, she was talking a lot about patterns in today's testimony. It's an important pattern to look at, because how come these people recur in her presidency, in her husband's presidency, and then again in 2016? I happen to be quite impressed by the President Clinton, that is, and by his first lady in their willingness to come and testify in the way they have. But perhaps they haven't explored the full outer reaches of what it means to have had this intelligence operation surround them, not only during their presidency, but also in the years after, as they were establishing the Clinton Global Initiative. It also potentially involved Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, to the point where we had Ghislaine Maxwell show up at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. These things all matter, because if this intelligence operation survived from the 1990s all the way till 2013 or whatever it was, then there's reasons that it existed if they weren't even friendly with the Clintons, with the Epstein and Ghislaine. What was going on? Very potentially, an intelligence operation that was working around them to shift policy, to shift American policy around the world. And that's not an insignificant set of circumstances that needs to be addressed. There's a moment as well when Marjorie Taylor Greene came up today. Who would have thought Hillary Clinton and Marjorie Taylor Greene in alignment on something? Let's take a listen.
A former member of this committee, someone with whom I doubt I have very much in common, Marjorie Taylor Greene, said that Trump put pressure on Bondi not to release the files. And if I recall, she was one of the votes for the Transparency Act, and she and others, including other members of this committee, were hauled into the White House and taken to the woodshed. And so I believe she may be a source of information about, her own experience demonstrating clearly that this White House does not want the Justice Department to release the files that might in any way
Interesting that she brings up Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was another moment involving Representative Timmons, who, you know, at some point in this testimony, it really got testy between Hillary and the Congress people and the staff there asking questions. This was one of those moments where they started talking about what Bill Clinton's day was going to be like the next day. Let's just listen to this exchange with Congressman Timmons.
Your husband's gonna have a much worse day tomorrow. The Clinton Global Initiative was used in the plea. Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers used Epstein's role in facilitating the Clinton Global Initiative to justify his plea deal. That was entered into evidence earlier. Obviously, Ghislaine Maxwell has alleged that this is part of one of her successes to facilitate setting it up, and there's been reports that $1 million was wired for the launch.
There you go. That's interesting. He said Bill Clinton would have a worse day the next day. He did. We aired the full deposition earlier this week. We appreciate your time here today. Thank you for being here, a part of Narrative. We've covered now the 3 depositions that have really stood out. Wexner, wall to wall, gavel to gavel, really fascinating. And we found out so much illuminating information from that deposition. We've played you Bill Clinton's deposition in full, also dramatic and full of lots of information, which was really enlightening. And now you've heard from Hillary Rodham Clinton. The question is, who is next? Because we sure should be listening to Howard Lutnick. Seems to be an important person who needs to come in front of this committee. But there are so many more. And I know that there's a widening list of people on a deposition list. Plus, I know that the Wolf Pack, as it's been dubbed, Lev Parnas and I have been trying to get some people together to write on a petition to. I'm not part of the petition part of it because I have to keep some distance, but there is a petition going out there asking for a lot of people to be called in front of the deposition. And finally, I should say that Lev is scheduled to be on any minute now, if he's not on right now, on his own Substack Live. And I would not in a million years dream of interrupting that. So if you are watching this, go over to see Lev. Lev has got some breaking news involving Jared Kushner, I believe. So I'm going to say goodnight to you. Thank you very much for being here tonight, as we've been playing all 5 hours of Hillary Clinton's deposition. You can always support my work at narrative.org, NARATIV.org. It's where we've dedicated now 10 years of investigation into the Trump administration and who funds them, the geopolitical forces behind them, and also into the Epstein files, where we write The Greatest Heist, which is an investigative series all about how Trump and Epstein colluded to create the biggest crime in history. And it's a crime that is still underway today, involving the entire American economy and the American democracy. So that's The Greatest Heist. We also do these live shows on a regular basis, 5 Stack at 3 p.m., Monday to Friday with Dean Blundell. And we do lots of evening broadcasts where we do further investigating. And more than that, we also have a lot of free reporting available to everybody. So even if you're not a paid subscriber, please sign up at narrative.org. It's really important that the subscriber numbers keep climbing and that we share this exclusive and important content with as many people as possible. It's not the kind of stuff the mainstream media is willing to report on anymore at all. But you know that we at Narrative are committed to transparency and bringing you the truth. So support us, please, at narrative.org, NARATIV.org. And with that, have a very good night, everybody. We'll see you next time.